Today I'm excited because I am sharing some thrifted Christmas DIYs. Get ready for some amazing and beautiful ideas on a really small budget. Hey there, my name is Yami. I am your Latina next door. Welcome back to Mi Casa, where I share high-end home decor and DIYs on a budget, as well as extreme before and after room transformations. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, please make sure to hit like on this video and subscribe so that you too can become part of the familia. So yes, I am sharing some thrifted and beautiful DIYs for Christmas this year. However, that is not the best thing about today's video. Today I am collaborating with two of my friends on YouTube. First up is Sherry from Simply Home with Sherry. If you don't know who she is, she has got to have one of the best personalities and senses of humor on YouTube. She's an avid thrifter. If you love shopping hauls, thrift with me's, thrifted transformations, room transformations, Sherry is your girl. My other friend is Casey over at Coffee with My Sunshine. She is the queen of trash to treasure. She will literally take things that you will probably throw out and turn them into beautiful home decor pieces. Plus, she has the sweetest disposition and the sweetest voice. And I have known these two ladies since my wee early stages on YouTube. I will have both of their links below so you guys can check out their channels, tell them that I sent you, and check out what they created for this collab. I'll have the playlist in the description box so you can see us back to back. The purpose of our videos is to give you guys idea how to frugally dress up your home for Christmas. This could be something that you find at a thrift store, secondhand, or maybe you have something that's a little bit outdated, worn out, but with a little bit of tweaking, DIYing, a little bit of paint and vision, you can revamp anything to make it beautiful again for your home. All right, with that being said, let's get started.
All right, so for the first DIY, I'm going to be using these topiaries that I found at my local Goodwill for $2.99 a piece. I share these on my September's thrift store haul. If you haven't seen that video, I'll make sure to link to it above. I wasn't really doing a lemon theme for Christmas, so I had to remove the lemons from the top part of the topiary. I'm not going to lie, at first I didn't think that I was going to be able to remove these lemons, but as I kept going, they got a little bit easier. However, there's quite a bit of glue on each of the lemons, and whenever I would pull one up, it would pull like a part of the styrofoam ball. So after removing all of the lemons, I was left with some pretty sad looking styrofoam balls, what you'll see in just a second. And I didn't have quite the green that was on the styrofoam balls, so I just kind of mixed a couple that I already had on hand. It was just some inexpensive acrylic paint, and began to dab the acrylic balls to kind of hide the white, because I didn't want any of the white to be seen through my new topiary foliage. I set those out to dry, and then once they were dry, I got this piece of greenery that I had bought on clearance a little while ago from Michael's, and I think I paid like $3.50 for it. I also had these red berry stems that I bought from Dollar Tree last year that were left over for some DIYs that I did not use them for. And I promise I did not buy anything new for these DIYs. This foliage that you see here is just leftover remnants from last year's purchases and even years before. And this is what I was determined to work from. So I began to remove the greenery pieces one by one from that little square, and I began hot gluing them to the little holes that were left over from the lemons. I started with those first because I wanted to make sure they were covered up, and I just took the little stem and inserted it into the styrofoam ball. And honestly, this is pretty simple. It's just about setting these all around the little styrofoam ball randomly, making sure that all of the areas are pretty much covered evenly. And once all the initial little holes that were left from the lemons were covered up, I did use like a really mini screwdriver in order to make new holes for the stem so that they were a lot easier to insert. And as you see here, once I was done with the greenery portion, I took that berry bush and began to cut it down. Now, because the stems of the berry bush were a lot longer than the greenery, I did tend to cut them down so that it would kind of match up to the length of the greenery, and just began inserting them randomly throughout the topiary, filling in little holes here and there. And of course, I did the same thing to both topiaries. So after the greenery portion was done, I moved down to the base, and the way they were colored, they kind of made them look like terracotta pots, but I'm more of a fan of cement looking pots, so this was pretty simple. I didn't have the color gray that I really wanted, so all I did was mix 2 different chalk paints, one in gray, one in white, together to get a lighter color of gray. And then I began to simply paint the bottom, and honestly all it needed was one good coat of paint. Then once the paint was dry, all I needed to do was give the old moss a new refresh, and I had some leftover moss from Dollar Tree, so I decided to go ahead and use that. And it looked a lot nicer because it was just a more vibrant color and it covered up all those bald spots. And that's it for this first DIY. For this next piece, I am going to be making over this wreath that I bought for $2.99 over the summer and I had shared on my June thrift haul. This wreath was actually in pretty good condition, but it did kind of smell like it had been stored for quite some time. But after leaving it outside for a little while in the heat, all of that went away. And honestly, I didn't think it really needed much in order to transform it, but I still did a few things to make it a little bit more festive. I had these orange berries that were left over from my fall DIYs, and I thought I'd put them to good use by adding more berries to this wreath. Now, it wasn't the color I wanted because I didn't want these to be orange, so I decided to paint them a midnight blue. Since this is a pretty good size wreath, I decided to go ahead and paint all of those remaining berries in blue so that I would have enough, and then I set them to dry. The berries only needed one coat, and when they dried this beautiful matte old dark looking blue that I thought went very well with the berries. In order to secure the berries onto the wreath, I did add hot glue to each of the stem ends before inserting them into each section of the wreath. Now, the only thing I did add that was brand new to this wreath was this little ornament that I had gotten from Dollar Tree this year, and I thought it was really sweet. However, the bow wasn't exactly the style I was going for, so it had to go. I found some scrap navy blue ribbon in my stash, and with it I created a new little bow for the little tags. I glued the bow onto the little tag with some hot glue, and then I secured it with a zip tie that I had on hand right onto the wreath form, and that was it for this DIY. So this next thrift transformation is going to be on this candelabra that I found at Goodwill for only $3.99. The piece was very well made, and when I flipped it over, it had a crate and barrel tag on it. However, the piece was pretty filthy and it just needed to be cleaned and wiped down. So I began removing the top candle holder pieces, which were actually really nice to remove because they screwed on to each of the little pillars holding them up. At first, I thought I could clean each of the little pillars and candle holders with some Barkeeper's Friend. However, no matter how much I scrubbed or tried to clean it, it just would not come off. So it was to my next option. Good old trusty spray paint. Now I had this lighter gold and this darker antique gold. I didn't have too much left of the lighter color, so I decided to use the darker color for my base and then spray the top of it just to kind of finish it off and give it a little bit of dimension. Once everything was nice and dry, I brought it in and I wrapped each of the little pillars with some painter's tape. I took my time with this, making sure that each little bit of the little pillar portion was covered completely. Then I took some primer and I'm basically using what I had on hand because I wanted to make sure I got rid of those first, and I just sprayed the base down completely with the primer before adding white glossy paint to it. I gave the piece all around and underneath a good coat of primer, and then I gave it a couple of good coats of the glossy white paint. Once the piece was completely dry, I took it back in and removed the painter's tape. The only thing left to do was to add the little discs back on, add some candles, and set it up. So for this next DIY, this was actually inspired by my friend Simply Home with Sherry herself. And it's basically just these little baskets that I got at Goodwill. I got the one with a handle for 99 cents and I actually got the other one without handles for nothing because it was broken and the guy just gave it to me at the store. And so the first thing I did was remove the top little piece of the handle that was still there, and I just took some wire cutters and cut them down. And then what I did was I added a little bit of stain so that you could not see the lighter color and it would kind of camouflage that little old handle that used to be there. Next, we're going to use this globe, and I'm also going to use an apothecary jar. Both of these items were thrifted, and I did share them as well in that September thrift haul. Now I am going to place this bowl into this basket to create a lantern. Sherry is a genius because I really love this look, and I'm only sorry that I only found 2 pieces that I could work with for this video. Hopefully I can get more. You can see I am just getting some white sand from Dollar Tree. And yes, this was more of a recent purchase specifically for these lanterns. And you can fill these up with whatever you want, but obviously since this is winter and Christmas, I thought white sand is appropriate for like snow, but it's also appropriate for a more coastal theme any other time of the year. So it's pretty versatile. After I had filled it up to the level I wanted, all I needed to do was add a Christmas pick and a candle. And this was pretty much it. And I did the same thing to the other basket. This time I used some green foam so that I can raise the apothecary jar a little bit because it wasn't sitting completely flat. And I did not remove the handles because I did think it looked kind of cute with the handles as well. I added some sand into the apothecary jar. I added a candle as well as a pick on the side of the basket, and this was done. So for this last piece, I am using these thrifted brass tea light candle holders. These were beautiful. And I got the small one and medium one for $1.99 and the tall one for $2.99. This was such a score. I was so excited and I shared all about it in my vlog this October on my second channel. And honestly, this piece was just beautiful as is. However, I did want it to clean it up a little bit. So I used some Barkeeper's Friend and it made a world of a difference making this look brand new. Of course, you can always keep it with that aged patina, but since I'm going for a gold and navy blue theme this year, I thought I would just go ahead and shine it up and make them look brand new. And honestly, sometimes when you find something special like this, because I so think this is such a neat find, you don't really want to do much to it. So after they dried, all they needed was a special place in my living room on my coffee table with some brand new tea lights.
Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below which one of these DIYs was your favorite. Don't forget to check out my friend Sherry and Casey on their channels. Their links to their channels are in my description box, as well as the playlist link so that you can see what they came up with for this collaboration. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next week with another home decor and DIY video right here. Until then, adios.